Welcome. We're just chilling, listening to Doki Doki Lit Club.
Lit.
Lit.
It's not what we do lit. It's not Doki Doki Literature Club. It's not Doki Doki Weed Club.
Yeah. Everybody gets lit.
Doki Doki Ketamine Club.
It's the ketamine club. Ketamine. Animal tranquilizer. Hey, Matt.
Hey.
Yes. Cinephile
Every
is once
kiss
again...
begins with ketamine. Sorry,
Ketamine.
I was trying to remember what the...
Ketamine. Cinephile is once again with us. We are going to read the last bit of the fic.
We're gonna read your mom.
We're gonna read it.
Yep.
We're gonna read the last bit of Ours Poetica. Last time I said we might not, but then I rethought it afterwards and was like, no, that's fucking stupid. I should do it anyways. Fuck that. And now we're doing it.
I always think about it. I must do it now.
Yeah. It is happening. So yeah, we're here. We're gonna read the 9th chapter.
I apologize if I'm a bit tired. I just put all the sheets on my bed.
Yeah. No, you can lay down.
It's a tiring experience.
Yeah. No, you can lay down. It's all great. Everything is great. Wow. Reading. I have the thing up already. I'm ready to go.
Always.
Always.
Professional streamer.
Professional streamer.
Professional streamer. Always ready. Looks like Shampa who isn't ready.
Yeah. Who needs to be ready? Sometimes it's just about the mindset of the stream, you know?
Yeah.
Of being on the stream. And
I
that's
have
what
a
you really need.
streamer blind.
Streamer blind.
Stream more.
So. Oh god.
Just say Yori.
Yep.
Just say Yori.
Just say you're
Just say Yori.
Forever.
Forever.
So, forever. We still got the song, and it's such a good song.
I know.
Forever. It's good hype music.
There's something that you should know.
No.
Say your... No, say your...
Anyways, if you haven't tuned in with us before, this is Ours Poetica. It is a Dream SMP fanfic.
This is not the stream for you. Because we are far into it. You are behind.
Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, this is the very end.
This will be very confusing if this is the first one.
The fic will probably keep going after this, but this is all that's been updated, so you'll be very confused. Please watch a different part before this one. Unless you just want to hear random people say words that don't
make no sense.
That make no sense. In which case you are very valid,
and
I'm glad you are here.
That is how I watched the first stream of this one when I wasn't there. I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm having a good time.
We're having a good time. We're just chilling, and that's all that matters. There's tags for things. Wow. There's things like emotional hurt / comfort, dysfunctional families, sad people, child neglect, heavy angst. If you don't want to listen to any of that, please don't listen to it.
Bedrock Bros.
For your own health.
There's also Bedrock Bros.
Yeah, it's the Bedrock Bros.
Bedrock Bros.
I forget which duo is Bedrock Bros.
That's Techno and Tommy.
Ah, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Because it's the SBI. It's Phil's a Minecraft Tommy in it.
Like how one says, this probably made me cry.
It's probably made me cry. Wilbur Soot and Technoblade. They are Minecraft YouTubers. But this is a characterization of them. A caricature of them for the purpose of writing something interesting and fun. So let's go. Let's get started.
Just Monica.
Just Monica. We're gonna have this stuck in our head the whole time. It's fine. I love it.
I don't know about you, but I will.
It's really great. This is an ancient practice predicting the future in another's prone body. Title from Hair Specs by Teresa.
Specs.
Can you say that again?
Haro Specs.
Nice.
Yes.
By Teresa Cursillo.
Teresa Fam...
Cursillo.
Carcillo,
I think.
Priscilla? Yeah.
There's a poem. You can read it. It's probably pretty good.
It's a poem.
Mentioned for depths of parent implies sexual activities. Very, very vague and anything weird. It's about discovering sexuality. Nice.
Yeah. Trigger warnings.
Nice.
If these, for this chapter specifically, Coming out, internalized aphobia, going nonverbal, implied/reference suicide attempt, implied/reference drinking, hyperbolic threats, implied reference child neglect, and lots of cursing. Lots and lots of cursing.
But that was a surprise.
So much.
I'm excited to curse. I like
So much.
cursing. It's very fun.
Well, if they were written as Bursch, it would be a lot more.
It's I mean, everybody.
Me.
Yep. Do you want me to start? It's a techno POV, and I was doing techno, so I should probably start it.
Yeah. Go for it.
Fuck. Nope.
Do you want to just do?
Nah.
No.
Okay. Something had gone wrong. Fuck. Something had gone wrong. Techno prided himself on being observant, able to unwind the motivations behind even the most mundane of actions, but it didn't take a genius to see that Wilbur's plan had gone bad. Before their mysterious outing, a late-night drive to the coffee shop, nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. Tommy had apparently told Wilbur, to which Wilbur immediately told his twin that Tommy is definitely hiding something important. Techno thought this obvious. Wilbur had prattled on for hours about his hopes to begin Project Reconnect with Tommy in full. In theory, it was simple. Wilbur would drive Tommy to his secret get-together with a few friends, learn more about whatever Tommy was keeping from his family, and rekindle the old bond between the two brothers via friendly banter and a late-night drive. Easy as cake.
No.
In practice, it was a shit show waiting to happen. Techno wasn't being melodramatic when he described Tommy as a tempest. The kid was moody at best, a hurricane waiting to devour at worst. He was quiet and snappish, proverbial hackles raised and eyes darting to and fro as if waiting for someone to attack. For all intents and purposes, his brother was a wild thing waiting to bite. Wild thing. He couldn't help but muse now, willfully ignoring a bedroom door that remained shut tight more than it opened. That always had been Tommy's favorite. The boy would beg Wilbur to read it to him before bedtime, and though his twin bemoaned in private how much he hated the picture book, "I've got completely memorized, Tech, memorized." Techno knew that Wilbur loved the way their younger brother's eyes gleamed as he stared at the looming figures of fur and sharp teeth. How the blonde toddler would clap and babble, pointing at the boy with a gold crown and fur pajamas and flash that toothless grin. Wild thing. Grubby fingers leaving prints on Mom's fine silverware. The shriek of laughter when the bath bubbles flew and Dad sighed. Bright smiles and baby chatter overshadowing Will's attempts at learning a new song. Small hands tugging at Techno's braid. Wild thing indeed. And when you caged up a wild thing, you better be prepared to hear it roar. So yes, Techno knew something had gone wrong when Wilbur stormed through their living room with a scowl on his face, glasses askew on his pointed nose as Tommy followed, blank and docile. Wilbur had spat something about needing a cigarette. Techno had made a sly comment about lung cancer, and Tommy had remained uncharacteristically quiet. Of course Techno had noticed his younger brother's silence. He was a researcher after all. It was his job to see the details that hid themselves in plain sight. But he didn't think too much of it. Obviously, Wilbur's plan had gone astray, and Techno would be left to deal with the fallout. This in and of itself wasn't too worrying. Techno had made a habit of cleaning up after his twins' messes, piecing back together the fragile walls of this glass house he was intent on destroying. And Techno had prepared himself for bed without so much as an exasperated sigh and weary trip up the stairs. He had put on his PJs, brushed his teeth, set aside his glasses, and knocked on his twin's door. It took only a blink for Wilbur to throw open the door and drag Techno inside. There were magnets. It might be easier to explain. Magnets that were polar opposites and so forever drawn together. They were Wilbur Soot and Technoblade, the former born 22 minutes before the latter. Two boys with funny names who became men too quickly. Two men who didn't grow out of the childhood grief that they had been raised in.
That's just the thing. It's gender.
I don't understand.
Wilbur said, rough heels of his palms pressing into his eyes, teeth gnawing at a bottom lip as he groaned in frustration.
He's not making sense. He's acting like like Dad was abusive and horrible to him, and just he said that in front of everyone, Tech. He aired out our family's whole dirty laundry like it was a bloody reality TV show in front of Dream. And oh, Dream, don't get me started. I kill that.
Okay, calm down before you pull a total Hamlet. Techno huffed, fiddling with the end of his braid as he sat cross-legged on his brother's down comforter. He tried to quell the rising anxiety in his gut. Right now, his priority was figuring out what exactly had happened at this open mic that Wilbur supposedly taken Tommy to. Supposedly, even more unbelievable, so Tommy could perform a poem and go from there. So let me get this straight. Dream coerced our brother into performing a tell-all about Dad being sucky and you being a bitch? And Tommy wrote the thing?
Well, a man of delicate words. And it's us being a bitch, not just me.
Wilbur's voice bordered on venomous, but he begrudgingly took his place at Techno's side, sighing as he rested his forehead on his twin's shoulder.
But yeah, apparently Tommy is a performance poet who writes with my community college arch rival nemesis, and they both make shouty poems about their dads. We knew absolutely nothing about it.
Techno breathed heavily through his nose, tilting his head to lay upon the crown of his brother's. He knew objectively that Wilbur was taking this unreasonably hard, that he was just reacting badly to Tommy's anger and the shit show that came with seeing Dream. But still, he felt the pinpricks of dread upon the back of his neck, sending his hair standing. Wilbur was dramatic. Of course he was. But he wasn't completely irrational. What about the poem shook him so badly? Made him so angry? He's scared. Something in him whispered, solemn and all too knowing. Something about Tommy scared him. Something's very, very wrong. He tried his best to ignore that voice. He had to. Well, what did he say? If Techno imagined hard enough, he could hear the rustle of the cogs in Wilbur's brain from where his ears pressed against the musician's skull, clicking like teeth as the gears ran smoothly against each other. His brother had always been smart, sure. Technoblade might be the one with a 4.0 GPA and a full ride scholarship, but if anyone asked, he'd easily say that Wilbur was the genius out of the two of them. Wilbur was more than just smart. He was cutting, as self-assured and knowing as a predator circling prey. Wilbur was not analytical, was not objective like Techno was, but he was intelligent and cynical and dangerous. And Techno knew his twin hated that word, hated how it loomed over his every action, residue from nights smuggling cigarettes and smash bottles under his bed, how it made him something to be feared. And he knew how to bend the truth to his will. And Techno knew that right now his brother was weighing the benefits between telling him what had actually happened and wrapping up his words into delicate half-truths. Wilbur let out an exhale, his entire body shuddering as if he was a faulty machine not built to breathe. Each inflation of his lungs an accident. We have been here before, Techno mused, hands pressed against the back of Wilbur's neck, steady and unrelenting. This is what we always return to. Bad breathing and twin brothers. My professor would call this motif overdone. And yet, the roles had been reversed, hadn't they? Because for all the messes Wilbur made and all the shattered glass Techno swept away, it was still always Wilbur who had been born just 20 minutes before. It was still Wilbur who got his license first and drove Techno to practice when Dad was too tired. It was Wilbur who learned to cook chili because it was Techno's favorite, and it was Wilbur who had been there for him, even across oceans. And it had been Wilbur, just Wilbur, who stayed on the line with Techno at 1 a.m. BST the night of his first kiss and what had come after, humming quietly as the younger sobbed into his phone, asking, "Why didn't I like it? I'm supposed to. Why can't I get my brain to work right? Why am I made wrong?" You had told him to breathe, counting each reckless inhale with an uncharacteristic patience, voice as gentle as morning rain on windowsills and hands in his hair. Acephobia, you're not made wrong. Internalized. His brother had said firmly. Techno had squeezed his eyes shut, hoping against all odds that if he imagined hard enough, there would be callous fingers against his, perfectly shaped to match his handprint and hold. There's nothing wrong with you. Your brain is just fine. You're Technoblade. You're made just perfectly, and you're my brother. And quietly, as if the reverberation of his voice through the staccato. The staccato of the phone speaker.
Words for this.
Yes, staccato. The staccato of the phone speaker would shatter him. Wilbur had explained, had given Techno new words to tie himself to, new ways to give this feeling he had been stowing away a name. And just like that, Wilbur had done what he'd always done. He had been a big brother. They were magnets, sure. Opposites, maybe. But they were twins. Two halves of the same fracturing whole. And at the end of the day, Wilbur would always be Techno's. So Techno would clean his messes, would shoulder his burdens. Anything that could even come close to paying back Wilbur for what he had given him. He would do anything for Wilbur, just as he knew Wilbur would do anything for him. No matter what storm wreaked havoc, or what wild thing got loose.
He said many things.
His twin finally settled on, screwing up his lips of his squishing the words on his tongue, tasting them for truth. Whatever was closest. There was a pause, where Techno thought that he could be left once more in the dark and forced to extrapolate based off of the minimal information given. But Wilbur's throat thrilled something uncertain and too sincere. And suddenly he was speaking again.
About Dad and us going away and drinking, him drinking, and about Mom, there was this line.
Wilbur. Techno interrupted gently. I said it too loud. Feeling the twine holding his brother together. Wilbur. Wilbur.
Wilbur.
Techno interrupted gently. Feeling the twine holding his brothers together beginning to snap. Holding his brother together beginning to snap. It's okay. You don't have to.
There's a mother underground somewhere.
Wilbur said. And Techno thought that a light bulb might have burst, because suddenly his ears were ringing and it was too dark, and he couldn't see Wilbur's expression, but he'd feel the way musicians' hands trembled in his.
With a missing face. With your smile. Your father claims he doesn't remember her.
Techno didn't know what to do with that. There was no logic in that statement. Of course Phil remembered their mother. Of course, Dad. What did Tommy mean? Kristen was their mother. She was still part of the family, and there was no way Dad would have...
It's called symbolism, you dumb fuck. Okay.
Symbolism, you dumb fuck. Did you say it?
Check.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Wilbur was saying. But Techno couldn't hear him over the chorus of blood rushing in his ears, singing like a tragedy. This didn't make sense. It wasn't logical. Tommy wasn't being logical.
Did I miss?
You missed it. There's a Techno. There's a Techno.
Techno.
There's
Yeah.
a mother with a missing face. Did he mean metaphorically? If he was a poet, and oh, how that made his head spin. His little brother, annoying little Tommy, wild thing, a poet? Must have been figurative. Ah, Techno tried to breathe, hands curling tighter from where they'd grasped Wilbur's. That must be it. He's just wielding words together. He's just playing pretend. Of course. There was a reasonable explanation for his brother's melodrama. There always was.
The lights just turned off.
Wilbur started, eyes unblinking as he gazed at a wall scattered with posters of rock bands and favorite movies and all the unimportant things that came with being a teenager. Dimly, Techno realized they were quite too old for that now.
Techno, there used to be... Before we left, there was... Why aren't they there? Why aren't they any photos of Mom in the house?
And oh. Technoblade once took a class during his undergrad about early modern English literature. It was a boring course, for all intents and purposes. Technoblade much preferred studying the classics, admiring the undaunted, indisputable aspects of something well-preserved. But there was a lecture on figurative language that he had admittedly enjoyed. He had never been one for dressed-up metaphor, opting to examine theme through characterization and plot devices. And the study of the imagists confirmed this belief. Do you want to read? It's a quote. It's a flashback. I'll do it. Fuck.
Wait, where's the...
It.
Oh, so it's
a flashback.
Yeah.
Gotta read flashback. Go in fear of obstructions. Ezra Pound had said, all high-collared and preening.
Use either no ornament or no good ornament.
No ornament or good ornament.
Or good ornament, fine.
No ornament or good ornament. Techno had taken this to heart. He was not a man of abstraction. He believed in solely the empirical, even within something as ambiguous as literature, and that everything could be condensed into its core attributes to be systematically categorized. He did not believe in the superfluous. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Superfluous. Yeah.
Did not believe in ornaments, and so he did not understand his brother. It would be inaccurate to describe Tommy as an enigma, he realized, because that would imply there was a method to be understood. To a puzzle, there must be a solution, and there was no answer to his little brother's behavior. And yet, Techno was observant, but right now he felt particularly dense. Because Wilbur was right. There was no pictures of their mother in the house. Where had once hung family portraits, well-loved snapshots of a dark-haired woman, always with a moon crescent smile and a child or two propped on her hip. And oh, how he missed that, the feeling of his mother's arms around his torso, holding him as if he was made of fine crystal, fragile, precious. Now there was nothing, and I didn't even notice. The thought had his stomach rolling, and he pressed his lips into a thin line, bone-white from pressure. I didn't even see that she was missing. Has she been missing this whole time? Oh God, what if Tommy hasn't seen her since... His stomach lurched. Wilbur grabbed his hands tighter. 8 years. Techno's eyes twitched, and he tried to ignore the pounding headache beginning to form. We've been gone since he was 10. He hasn't seen her face in almost 8 years. There's no way he could have remembered her. No way his brain would have been able to absorb the face of the woman who had brought him into this world, who had brought him in alone, screaming and thick with blood, who had left them. No way he would have been able to see that Wilbur had her eyes and Techno had her frown, that Tommy carried her laughter and the way his eyes scrunched before he threw his head back in a guffaw. None of that. None of the small pinpricks of detail that could be sewed together to create the perfect picture of Mom. His little brother had nothing. His mother was dead, and his little brother didn't know what she looked like. It is a manner of speech among poets, Pound had continued, glib and cynical, so easy to brush aside. To chant of dead, half-forgotten things. There seems no special harm in it. It has always been done. And Techno hadn't known what that meant. He thought he did now. There is a silence that comes with death. Techno thought people didn't really talk about that enough. There is a quiet that follows after you've lost something. After the screaming and sobs of fathers clutching to mother's corpse. After your brother's night terrors and panic attacks. Mm-hmm. And the baby that won't stop crying. Crying? Fuck.
Is it crying and
I don't know
what
words are. I don't know what words are.
Crying.
That won't stop crying. There is a vacuum of sound that opens up its mouth and begins to eat. After Mom died, Technoblade went nonverbal for months. There were still times where his voice would simply just disappear, because he was that little boy again, who stood by his mother's plastic hospital bed and watched as his father smoothed her hair out from where it was pressed to her sweaty forehead, blubbering prayer after prayer. There were days where he couldn't speak, couldn't force words out of his mouth, and was left to live in silence. He had learned to accept it. And maybe that's why he couldn't understand Tommy. Not really. He didn't understand how someone could be so loud in the face of grief. He didn't understand how this wild thing dared to raise his voice, to shriek with joy and anger and pain and life. But now, as he sat in a dimly lit room with his brother's hand in his, Wilbur's forehead pressed into the crook between his shoulder and neck as if to hide away, he couldn't help but hate the silence. It's ruining us. He bit his lip. It's suffocating us. Because this wasn't working. He didn't know what to fix. There was something wrong in this house, more than he had initially hypothesized. This was more than just slipping late-night apologies under doors on his twin's behalf or mincing goodbyes before each fencing tournament. This was wrong.
Something's up with Tommy.
Wilbur said now, voice muffled from where he was tucked away into his brother's side. A wary hand slipped out of Techno's to fall gently on his head, patting it once, twice.
I don't like it. The things he said, we need to talk to him. We need to set him straight. It doesn't feel right.
And Dad, the realization went unspoken, though both brothers could hear it in the way their hearts thrilled against their ribcages in anxiety. We need to talk to Dad. He messed up, and we need to figure out how he's going to fix it. But how? Well, Techno wanted to cry, not Wilbur. Techno wanted to cry. He wanted to hit something, let his knuckles go raw with the impact of his fist against drywall. Instead, he put a hand through his brother's untamed curls. Go to bed, Will, he finally said, voice heavy with exhaustion, fingers stalling where they twisted around his twin's frizzy hair, dry and tangled from a lack of care. He winced as he snagged on a knot. We'll talk to Tommy in the morning, okay? It'll be fine then. Wilbur hummed, voice lilting, unconvinced, but he did not speak. And so they sat, measured by their motifs. Two brothers in a childhood bedroom with the lights off, afraid of glass houses, but left with nothing but stones and bad breathing. Quiet. 30 minutes later, a knock sounded on the front door. Neither boy rose to answer it. 15 minutes after, Techno was woken up by a roar. Wild things indeed.
Oh.
Should I take the next one since it's Tubbo?
Yeah!
And I was in charge of the Tubbo.
It's Tubbo, and
Okay.
Rambo's gonna be there too, so you gotta voice Rambo when you talk.
Good thing I'm paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I just might have to be told when it's Rambo, though.
I don't know what words are.
That's okay, neither do I. English alphabet? Do I know her?
Do I know her?
I know her.
Do I know her?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
I am not afraid of a door. This, Tubbo chanted, with his fist poised to strike once more upon hardwood of the Watson family's front door. I am not. This is fine. There is nothing to be afraid of. It's fine. Steeling his nerves, teeth clenched as anxiety bubbled in his chest, Tubbo brought his knuckles down to knock. It was a harsh, panicked sound that echoed in the empty streets. They had been in front of the house for all of 5 minutes, the early morning air biting at their skin, chewing until it was pink and raw, as they hard at the white painted door to swing open. The two alternated between pounding mercilessly on its surface and jamming the doorbell, taking turns pleading into the darkened windows to flicker with life. If he doesn't come out of this house in 4 seconds, Tubbo said when they had first arrived, eyes narrowed and rough-edged flint, I'm going to swat his ass. And the threat had been lighthearted, all bundled up in nerves and dry humor, but as the minutes brushed past and their calls went unanswered, Tubbo had grown desperate. Tubbo was far from irrational. He dealt in pragmatics, in quick reasoning followed by sound, deduction, and hypothesis. He knew that logically his friend was in one of his funks. It was a nasty habit the whole group had tried to work on together, resulting in Tubbo throwing together a PowerPoint presentation with way too many aggressive slides about communication being key to fostering strong, meaningful bonds that mean I won't kick your ass when you ghost me. But it was still a reoccurring problem Tubbo found himself facing time and time again. If he were any kind of poet, he'd describe his best friend as a wounded wolf. Tommy likes to lick his wounds in private.
He knows the wolf metaphor. He knows it.
It comes back in every chapter.
Yep.
Only showing his hide after the danger had passed, and he could flaunt his new scars. And himself, the bedraggled trapper trying to lull the beast in. There was only so much sweet words and reassurances he could accomplish. Tommy would have to come to him.
He's trying to get him to open
but
up!
Something felt different. But something felt different this time. It was in the way the street echoed with their shouts, how the porch light cast shadows across wooden boards and distorted the figures they left behind. Tubbo too long and Rambo too thin. It was in the way Tubbo's phone rung silent, nothing but dial tone and unanswered lines. That flint inside him, that thing dagger sharp and waiting to be struck, burst into flames. His best friend wasn't answering. Tommy always answered Tubbo. Maybe not Rambo, maybe not Wilbur, or even Mr. Sam, but he always answered Tubbo. The only time he hadn't... Tubbo didn't like this. It felt different. It felt familiar. It was then he remembered he was no poet. He was a scientist. He didn't know how to hide behind his words. So, here was the truth. The system was crashing. Please, please open up, he hissed, voice rising to a high-pitched shout as the house remained cruelly dim. Tommy, Wilbur, anyone, you can't just open up.
Dies.
I don't want to swear.
You goddamn fucking sharts.
Dude.
Rambo scolded, though from the way that their hands shook as they tapped away at their phone, the attempt was half-hearted. Rambo hadn't said much to Tubbo after they had stepped out of the car, anxiously dialing Tommy's phone number over and over as the two shouted at the empty windows. Still, Tubbo could practically keep the thoughts buzzing around in his friend's skull, the countless words struggling to make their way out of their mouth. Rambo was not one to be speechless, and yet all the teen could do was fiddle with his phone and echo what fell from Tubbo's lips. The younger sighed, placing a timid hand on Tubbo's shoulder. That's you, JV, sorry.
It's... Stop it. They're not going to open up if they hear some hooligan screaming at the top of his...
Tubbo shook the hand off with a harsh jerk, briefly sending a scathing glare to the teenager looming behind him. Well, they're going to open up. Tommy, I swear to God.
Tubbo.
I will burn your house down to the ground.
Tubbo.
Rambo's hand found itself on his shoulder again, and they gently tugged the younger teen from the door. Tubbo grit his teeth, blinking away the pressure building behind his eyelids.
Oh, sorry. Please, just... You need to calm down. We can't go into this with a bad headspace, dude.
I don't want to swear. Could you yell the expletives?
Fuck this shit.
Thank you. Tubbo let out a strangled roar of frustration, chest so tight he thought his ribs might snap and give away. All that fury, the burning inside him, and that teeth-grinding terror that was threatening to overtake him. It all spilled out as he screamed at the Watson's unlit house. It wasn't fair. Why did Tommy have to push him away? Why did his family, stupid of a family, have to come back and torture his friend? Just to show him that they didn't care? It wasn't fair. I'm so tired of trying to stop a car crash that's already in motion, Tubbo wanted to cry, hands balled into fists where he stood, breath leaving him in quivering puff that hung in the early dawn mist. It's not fair. I'm so tired of waiting for Tommy to leave me.
Oh.
Because that's what this is, wasn't it? Tommy was going to leave him because his family was unable to see what they had done. The damage they had wrought on his friend who had only been a child. Unable to see what they didn't do. And Tubbo still thought of the morning after that night, when Tommy had laid on his living room couch, eyes swollen from tears that had long since stopped coming, and pupils dilated as he stared at the blank ceiling. I don't think I ever grew up, Tommy said, a voice so quiet in the darkness of Tubbo's house, hushed even as Tubbo gripped his hand so tight it would bruise. Not really. I never got time to. I think that when my mom died, I did too. and Tubbo thought he would accidentally shatter the boy's fingers. Because Tubbo had failed that child, hadn't given him enough reasons to stay. Tubbo knew that it was irrational, knew that there were some things you couldn't fix, some things he couldn't rationalize and hypothesize and create precise methodology to perfect. But he still felt that guilt that had squeezed him almost dead ever since that night. He knew it was stupid. He was just a kid, too. He shouldn't have to be carrying this around, trying to hold together the pieces of his friend hell-bent on shattering. He was just a kid. But that didn't make it hurt any less. It didn't make him hate himself any less. I lost him. He found the words escaping him before he could think. Tubbo's legs grew weak, and he swallowed the bile threatening to rise. Oh, God. He sat down heavy, ignoring Rambo's panicked hands fluttering nearby as he curled up on the top step of Tommy's porch. He squeezed his eyes shut. Oh, God, he was going to puke. Oh, God, we need to get to... There has to be a way. He can't just... Rambo, I can't lose him. Rambo shot forward, fingers clawing in the back of Tubbo's sweatshirt as they wrapped their long arms around Tubbo's torso, fabric bunching in their hold. Tubbo began to shake. Rambo had only held him like this once before, when Tubbo had thought his joints would pop out of their sockets from how hard his sobs rattled in his chest. When Rambo couldn't remember the date or why the sight of running water made them forget their own name. They had only been this broken once before, when a blond boy laid on a beat-up living room couch and told them he'd wished he had died in that bathroom. I can't lose him. I can't.
You won't. I promise.
The clawed hands clinging to his back sunk further into the folds of his sweatshirt, and Tubbo let out a wet sob. He pretended it sounded like a laugh.
You won't. We won't. Because they're going to go in there and find Tommy, okay? We're going to march right up those stairs and throw open his door, and we'll lecture him to hell and back for worrying us, and it'll be fine, because we're us. We're Tommy, Tubbo, and Rambo.
Rambo pulled away, and suddenly Tubbo's heart seemed to seize. There, under a flickering porch light that cast yellow shades upon cheekbones and distorted shadows, Rambo's eyes gleamed. They were light, full of fire and anger and desperation and terror and hope. So much hope that Tubbo had thought he'd set the earth ablaze with it. That, all it would take is a blink and sparks would fly from his friend's gaze. Rambo smiled, half crooked and too grim, and said,
Because we could ruin the world together.
Tubbo gasped, breathless, and opened his mouth to speak. The door slammed open, orange light spilling from the entryway upon their forms. What are you doing outside our house? And Tubbo believed them. Together, they burned. Oh God, is this all me?
What the fuck?
Here I go.
This
is the me chapter.
This is the me chapter. I love the swearing bits, and you're just like, I can't do the swearing bits, and I'm like, bro.
Me and Becca just say it at the same time.
I'm sorry.
I like how it's like,
you like goddamn fucking shark.
You fucking shark.
Mm-hmm.
Get your ass out here, I swear to God.
I like how at the end of it's like, what are you doing at my house? And they're both just like, crying.
Crying.
Okay. So I guess I'm just doing the next one. It's a me chapter.
Wilbur, POV. Wilbur, POV.
Okay. Wilbur had woken up to many things in his life. Alarm clocks, crying children, theater majors with too much time on their hands, fire alarms, roommates living in a row, crying fathers, but very rarely, if ever, had he woken up to two random teenagers verbally harassing his brother in the living room. At 3:30 a.m. in the morning, no less. Absolutely great for his beauty sleep. Not that Wilbur had been doing much resting. The night had been one of kicked-off comforters and legs twisted in sheets, of bleary eyes open to a pitch-black room with a blank ceiling. Briefly in the night, he had woken up by the shuttering of a door in its frame as it was pushed ajar, of a window opening and closing, but he was too exhausted from the day's shitty events to properly rise from his mattress, and so he tumbled back into the two warm arms of sleep. He did not dream, and for that he was thankful. But as he stood in the dimmed living room of his childhood home, gazing at his twin brother being chewed out by a duo of comically feral teens, he thought he must have been dreaming, or having a nightmare. Techno had his palms facing the two seething teenagers in the universal sign of surrender, one that Wilbur found laughable on his brother's imposing frame. It was no small feat to make the fencing champion, the Blade, nervous. And boy, it was hilarious to watch. And the grad student looked dead on his feet. Dark purple half-moons decorated Techno's haggard face right below his eyes, looking far from waning as he tried to reel the kids from frothing at the mouth in front of him. Wilbur's brother sighed. Wilbur's brother sighed.
Oh, it's Techno. Fuck. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's me. I was like...
We had a cookie accident.
I'm sorry. Look, I don't know who you are.
Most of the reading.
Look, I don't know who you are, but you need to leave.
Oh, that's right. We told you, you bummer.
Headed bitch.
That let us upstairs, or I swear to all things holy, that I will make your life a living hell. The shorter of the two, brown-haired with a bad case of bedhead and wrinkled pajama bottoms, was practically spitting like an angry cat. The boy jabbed a finger at Techno's chest, who did nothing more than grimace at the boy, glaring up at him with eyes puffy and lids flush pink from what could only be tears. Don't test me. I have a blue belt in Taekwondo, and I will bust your ass. Yep, definitely a nightmare. There was a deep groan, and Wilbur's attention was drawn to the other teenager leaning against the back of the sofa, head in their hands, as they seemingly let out a slew of weary curses. They were tall, much taller than Wilbur himself, practically towering over him, he noted with a pinprick of irritation, and much better composed than their counterpart.
Counterpart.
Clothed in jeans and a sensible t-shirt and jacket, they had apparently had the foresight to attempt at smoothing their hair into something resembling neat. Though, conditioner is a must, Wilbur noted, seeing the teen fiddle with the dry strands as they chastised short stacks into calming down. From the way the boy was seething, it would take a while. Wilbur blinked, rubbing his eyes. What in the ever did I walk into?
Living fuck.
Kid, I could throw you like a sack of potatoes.
Say that again. One more time. I dare you, Pinky.
We don't have time for this.
The taller one suddenly shouted, voice shrill and bubbling with frustration. They pulled themselves off the back of the couch, laughing as they placed a slender hand on Shortstack's shoulder, pulling the teenager away from where he was squaring up with Technoblade.
Listen, Tubbo, I just want to check to make sure Tommy's okay. And we can't do that because you're in our way, so please let us through and...
What the do you want with Tommy? Wilbur found himself blurting, wincing as the taller teen's mouth clicked shut and everyone swiveled their head to pin him with their gaze. Shivers crawled up Wilbur's spine, and self-consciously he rubbed at the goosebumps appearing on his arm. Who even are you guys? He tried to ignore how they looked at him, how Techno's eyes widened in that telltale sign of pity, how the two teenagers glowered at him as though he had done something wrong. Techno heaved another sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose. When he spoke, his voice sounded as though someone had thrown gravel in a laundry machine just to watch it cyclone.
Is this Techno? Okay, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Wilbur, meet local delinquents Rambo and Tubbo. They're apparently here to crash Tommy's pity party up there.
We're Tommy's friends. The short one, Tubbo, corrected, dark eyes flickering something indiscernible. Tubbo swept his gaze over Wilbur's form, and then Techno's. Before that, flickering settled into something akin to kindling, flames gentle and whispering in the silk thread smoke. He twisted his lips into a bitter smile through little teeth. His family, and we need to help him. So please, if you care about your little brother at all, you'll let us up those stairs. If asked, Wilbur would lie and say his first reaction had been one of anger, one of indignation and spitfire words. How dare you, he would say, eyebrows pitched forward in a scowl and lips pulling away to reveal teeth. How dare you insinuate I do not care for my little brother? Because Wilbur was a big brother. Tommy's big brother. And any implication otherwise was ludicrous. Of course I care, he wanted to scream. Of course I care for Tommy. Why would you ever say otherwise? But truthfully, as he stood barefoot in his childhood home's living room with draining light bulbs and two strangers who proclaimed themselves family, his first reaction had been quiet, soft. Maybe it was because he was still trying to wake up. Maybe it was because he was exhausted and tired of being angry. Or maybe it was just because he was so tired of feeling. But he didn't do much more than blink and whisper a dumbstruck, "Oh. Oh." He thought muffled mutterings and late-night calls blocked by a scuffed wooden door. He thought of paper streamers and twitching fingers adjusting a mic stand. He thought of empty bottles, rusted hinges, and spotless bathroom tiles. He thought of a hallway with missing photos, white splotches where the family portraits had once hung, shielding the beige walls from dust. It felt like a plot of land one may section for burial. It felt like an unopened grave. He thought of a boy, the wide eyes he hadn't grown into yet, blue and unrelenting as they stared at the shuddering pixels on a Game Boy screen. He thought of yelling, "I care!" And he did not shout it, did not puff his chest and square his shoulders. Instead, he felt himself shrinking. "I care. You could never know how much." He really did. So much that sometimes he thought all he could do was fall to his knees, to open his hands, palm upward and pleading. How could he not? He was a big brother. He was supposed to be the untrembling foundation of which his brothers would build upon. He was supposed to be self-assured and rational and care. He was supposed to be the one to teach Techno how to shave, Tommy how to drive. He was meant to be the strong one, the protector. He had known that since he was 8 years old, with a missing front tooth and a dead mother and a missing father. He had always known it would be him filling the roles left empty, folding laundry and cooking dinner and teaching his little brother ABCs. Techno could go to his tournaments, Tommy could play his little video games, and Wilbur would remain where he was. He would stay. And it had been unfair. So unfair. He had wanted a normal childhood, to go home to loving parents like Garrett and Nikki and Fundy. He wanted to be tucked into bed at night, and only worry about schoolwork and the newest Call of Duty being released. He wanted to be normal. He wanted to be able to be free, to leave. So he did. Looking at these two teenagers, eyes round and mournful and so afraid for his little brother, he wanted to say he regretted it. He wasn't sure if he could. Because something was seriously wrong. As he had laid in bed that night, waiting for sleep to kiss his brow bone and relieve him from the storm brewing in his head, he could only think of his brother's expression. How his face had crumpled as Wilbur yelled at him in the car, a small grimace etching itself frown lines on his cheeks, eyebrows shadowing those eyes that had shined with that look he had seen across his baby brother's face so many times, over dinner tables and after shouting matches, when Wilbur had left him with nothing but locked doors and sharp words. That look that had Wilbur at therapy appointments once a week, that made him bury his head in his pillow at night. Wilbur wasn't an idiot. He wasn't blind. He knew that he had hurt Tommy's feelings. Sure, it sucked. That's what brothers do, he would assure himself silently, gazing into dark brown eyes heavy with dark circles. We hurt each other and scream. That's what brotherhood is. But Tommy needed to learn. He needed to see. Wilbur wasn't the bad guy. He wasn't cruel, or a monster, or dangerous. He wasn't a bad person. And he cared. He really did. That was something he could never leave behind, how much he loved his brothers. Nothing could ever change that. His gaze locked once more with Hubbo's. And for the first time, Wilbur saw how worn the teen was, how his shoulders shook with exhaustion and desperation, how his forearms crossed over his chest as if to shield himself from danger. Breath rushed and unrhythmic. He glanced at Rambo, watching as they anxiously tugged at their sleeves. Face eerily blank, the only sign of emotion in the twitch of their lips bending into a gentle frown. These strangers, these children, they cared for Tommy, just like Wilbur did. And so his next words were easy. Come on up, then. Take your shoes off, please.
Fuck you, Wilbur, but also I feel bad.
Yeah,
Fuck you, but
for real.
All of them deserve better.
Yes. Next is Tommy monologue, so go for it.
Yeah, it's a Tommy monologue. Do you want to read the dramatic Tommy monologue that is very short?
yeah, because it's also the last part, and I didn't really have to write any narration.
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay. Ooh, okay. laying on a bed, haphazardly strewn upon a dirtied comforter, stained with ink and the ripples of tears, was a notebook. The spine had a wrinkled vein split down the middle from countless hours face upward, and its mouth pried open. Its words made easy prey and poachable. It was a harmless little thing, all yellowed pages and midnight scribbles, where math homework danced in the margins of old poetry and to-do lists. A ballpoint pen lay next to it, tip still dripping black onto the page. Into the page there, in messy handwriting with vowels bunched together and consonants half fallen on the page's lines. Proudly sat the newest entry, Thursday, July. There are some poems never meant to be read. Sequestered away in the countless pages of a notebook, thrown into the bottom of a book bag, or pushed into the nooks of a closet. There are universes a poet snuffs out before they even have the chance to expand, before they twist themselves into the air and make known what was only ever shown itself in the safety of haphazard, words in a forgotten journal. And then there were the poems that never stay put. The ones that ripped themselves from the page and screamed, "Here I am, let me sing." They are the poems a writer hopes will never live past adolescence. They will remain forever frozen in their childlike fervor, where words swallow gravity and send the world tumbling off its axis. They are the raw poems, the hurt poems, and they are the poems made of pain, the ones a poet prays to forget and let die, the ones that never stay dead. And often they begin with lines like this: "At my funeral, there will be no flowers."
Oof.
Big goose.
Oh god.
Big goose.
That's it. That's the chapter.
That's what I got for now.
Wow.
I have marker on my hand. Can I just say that I really what was it? Like this this chapter in particular kind of made me change my mind on like Wilbur, I guess, just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's actually trying now. He's trying to understand.
He's finally seeing it in a better way, kind of. He's starting to.
He's making an effort to try and understand what's actually happening. instead of just following his blind preconceptions.
I feel like that's definitely
Yeah,
when...
and, like, being angry.
Yeah.
I feel like that's definitely when he kind of realized what Tommy meant by their mom had no face and, like, their dad couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I feel like he finally realized what that meant and was like, oh.
Yeah. I like to imagine, like, when he got home, like, he'd walk down the hallways and he was like, he spent a minute looking at, like, the walls and he was like, oh shit, there's nothing on the walls. Wait a second.
We've kind of forgotten about her for a while, haven't we?
Oh my god.
Yeah. I hope there is at least some explanation to him. Like, even though, like, in real life, you shouldn't have to explain yourself or explain your emotions or anything, but in this fanfic, I feel like the character should, like, be like, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Or at least explain some of it, because I feel like in this fanfic, like, Rainbow, Hello, Techno, and Wilbur could get along perfect. Like, like, they're just those type of people. But because they see themselves, or they see each other as, like, enemies, they can't get along because of it.
Yee.
Yee.
There are a few things that came to mind as I was reading it. It feels like...
Same, actually.
Yeah. Yee! You got some thoughts? Do you wanna go to what you wanna say first, or
you can say what you wanna say first?
Okay. First of all, Ace writes.
It's
Ace writes.
My immediate thought of that, because I had to, for a moment, I had to be like, that was the Ace part, right? Because you can still like to have sex, but, like, not necessarily like to have sex with a certain person.
Yeah.
So my thought was immediately like, oh, they just don't like sex with that person, but then I was like, oh, it's probably not what it's meaning to refer to.
Without the context of, like, the trigger warnings of saying it's acephobia, I feel like it could easily be interpreted as, like, internalized homophobia, or like something similar, because it would be like, because it could have been like Techno went on a date with the girl and didn't like the girl and really like guys, but like it makes the most sense of it being ace, but it's like you could have interpreted that way. Like,
you can still like somebody, but not necessarily like having, like, you can still also like having sex, but you also don't have to necessarily like having sex with someone. Does that make sense?
I don't know what you're saying.
You can like someone, but not like to have sex with them.
Yeah.
But can like to have sex.
Yes. That is true. Yeah. Although, like, with the part of it being, with the part at the end of
but I do think it's intended to.
Yeah. At the end of the section, like, it was like, Wilbur gave words and meaning to that. I feel like it implies that Wilbur was like, oh, have you heard of this sexuality? Have you heard of this? And it's like, oh, you're the one that knows these things. Oh, okay.
Well.
Oh, well. Ace writes. Fuck. I wish I had read Where the Wild Things Are, so then I could, like...
Oh, I have.
Well, I have, but I haven't read it recently, and so I don't remember, like, its messages and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Did you read it?
Bro, it's my favorite book.
Did you read it recently?
Not recently, but I know about it because
it
was literally... I was the Tommy in that situation. I love Where the Wild Things Are. I would have it read to me all the time.
Yeah, it's a good book.
There was one book that I really loved, but I can't remember what it was.
Oof.
I think I still have it.
You might.
I need to find that now.
Yeah. I feel like if I remembered all the stuff of Where the Wild Things Are, I might be able to make a comparison that was really good.
I remember...
Obviously, there's the comparison of, like, Tommy could... What do you want to say, Mads?
I think... Well, especially in Where the Wild Things Are, the main character, the little kid that goes to where the wild things are. He, like, the story behind it is that he runs away, like, into, like, imagination, basically, his own imagination, to where he can destroy and he can make fun of people and he can do all these, like, dangerous and risky things all the time with no repercussions. And he basically, he does all that he wants ever. And then he realizes that the one thing that he wanted was, like, affection. And that's the one thing the wild things can't give him. And so he has to go back home, and he has to go back to his mom, and he apologizes for, like, destroying the house. And he gets hugged and has a nice meal and goes to bed.
That is a really good comparison, then. That's really, really good.
So, yeah, it's a really good comparison.
That's really good.
So it's like, this kid is acting out because, not because he's, like, aggressive or, like, rude or, you know, any of those things. He's acting out because he's sad that he isn't getting the affection he needs, basically.
He doesn't feel heard or noticed
or
by
loved.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, like, the whole thing of, like, going into a fantasy land to try and vent. That's a big topic thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good comparison. And then when you cage up a wild thing, you better be sure to hear it roar.
I'm pretty sure that part might also be referencing it as some way, but
yeah, like maybe it's a quote.
Not necessarily a quote, but I feel like it's referring to something in it, but I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. It does feel like, though, it's like at the very core of it, though, it's like if you you disrespect them and they're gonna retaliate.
Yeah. Some people are like that.
It makes sense. It's like nobody loves me, and then I'm gonna scream. And everybody's like,
I'm gonna scream.
And everybody's like, why do you scream? I hate screams. And he's like, why don't you notice me? And they're like, because you scream. And then he's like, but you didn't notice me before. And everybody's like, I don't understand anything. And
that is literally the sum of his entire family.
This fucking shit. Oh my god.
Normal.
I liked how it showed Techno's anxiety. He's he's a very logical human being, but also it showed that even though he is logical, there's like a part of him underneath that is like, everything is going to break and everything's gonna explode and we're all gonna die. Like, it shows that in this. Also I believe the author said, like, the reference, the literature reference they made in Techno's POV, I think, they don't like the person that they're making the reference to very much, or like they don't want to give very much credit to them or something. I don't remember. Well, I think it's at the bottom. Let me see. I might be wrong. Oh yeah. The line Techno quotes is from Ezra Pound's craft essay, Prolegomena.
Prolegomena.
Yeah, Prolegomena. I hate this man with a burning passion, but this line fit perfect, so please do not give him any clout.
You're the one who wrote him.
I had to make a deal with the devil on this one, / serious. So do not give this person clout, they do not exist, thank you. That human being does not exist. I don't know what we're talking about. Anyways.
They might have been talking about
yeah, we're talking about the analysis thing. I was going down. What was another thing that came to my brain?
No, I said he might be talking about because he said the person didn't exist. Did he meant the Wilbur or like?
No. Now I'm confused. What? No,
when it said don't give this person clout, they don't exist.
No. They were doing it's the don't exist part isn't true. They were doing that they don't exist as in I don't acknowledge their existence because they're shitty.
Oh.
They
Wow.
didn't actually not exist.
I thought they meant like Wilbur, like the character that they made.
No. The person that they quoted.
Oh.
But I like how they brought back the meaning of that.
Mm-hmm. I also thought about. It made me think about as like why, specifically they, technically were like forgetting about her.
Yeah, it's
Whereas it's like they were in so much pain from her loss that they unintentionally forgot about her, where more so they wanted to forget about the pain of it and accidentally also was forgetting about her slowly.
yeah, it's the fucking ads, bro. It's fine.
Get the
Ignore
fuck.
it. Ignore it. I will fucking. I forgot how to get rid of the thingies.
What does it say specifically?
Don't ask. Don't read it.
I'm not gonna say it out loud. I'm just
Continue
reading.
with your discussion. Ignore it. Continue with your discussion.
I'm trying to think of what else. I think that's mostly it.
Yeah.
Other than
Got interrupted. Something else. Sorry, that was a big break. But get back in. There was the whole thing of like, what was it? It was the techno. The whole family being one of like, it's like what you said. The whole family being one of like silence, and then unintentionally making the name lost, and then I think it was like saying like poets like to talk about the things that aren't talked about, and that makes Tommy that. And
poets like to talk about their pain.
Yeah, like they talk. The chant of dead have forgotten things. So it's like the giving name to something that would otherwise be lost and keeping it in memory.
They technically did like just forget about her, but like out of their own like trauma.
Yeah. Not actually forget, but like they just didn't.
They were more so.
They didn't acknowledge
to forget like their pain and their trauma of it.
Yeah.
But that was their pain and their trauma, so they were essentially forgetting her.
Yeah. Basically, they just didn't talk about it, and Tommy was kind of left there to be like, what the fuck are you all on about? Like, actually talk about this bullshit.
Like, it was like their pain was so bad they couldn't even, like, talk about her or even, like, see her face. Even if it was, like, intentional or not with that, or they knew that or not, that's basically how it was. They couldn't even, like, put pictures of her up there anymore. Like, they couldn't even talk about her.
He took the pictures down, and it's interesting to note. Something that I feel like is kind of targeted and means that this is on Phil. I feel we don't know the details, but I feel like this is on Phil because it's like, the Tommy. It adds on to the Tommy's feeling of feeling like he is the murderer because like the pictures had been up there when Wilbur and Techno were living there, but the moment that they both left, they were taken down. But
so then it feels like more like Tommy is a reminder of it. Like he goes into play of that pain and trauma.
Yeah, like
which is fucked up.
Yeah. Also like the love to see found family with Tubbo and Rambo, and they're like, everything is gonna be okay.
It's gonna be alright.
I can't remember if there was anything else that I thought. I swear there was something else. Oh, yes. there are a couple things.
About it now.
Wilbur on this part, was it this part? No, it was like there was a. I think it was that part. There was a part where like it was like Wilbur was saying that he was like having trouble sleeping after the whole thing with Tommy, and like he was thinking over things, and like the comforter, like he was like throwing it off and everything. It leads back to the thing that we saw at the beginning of the fic with Tommy, where it's like he's not accepting the comfort, he's not accepting the reality, or like he's trying to, but he's like he doesn't, he, you know, like.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like it leads back to that, I feel, because it's like it's the parallel. It's the parallel.
Parallel.
It's the parallel.
It's the parallel.
No comfort, only pain in this house. And then last thing, I'm just gonna say in case you missed it or like anything. I feel like this is implying really, really darkly. I feel like this is implying that Tommy wrote a poem for his suicide note isn't gonna attempt suicide. That's what I feel like is happening in this chapter.
Sorry, who's attempting suicide?
Tommy.
Oh.
That's what it feels like to me. After reading this section, that's what it feels like the next chapter is gonna it's gonna happen. Because he left... First of all, he messed everything up in the room. And he left a poem there. And the first lines were, "At my funeral, there will be no flowers."
I feel like not necessarily maybe a suicide. I feel like a suicide attempt more so.
Well, I didn't necessarily say he would be dead, but like...
Oh. The way that you said it, I thought you were saying that you thought he was going to like die in the next. Well,
he might. He might die, but
he might. I don't think he will.
I don't think he's gonna die. It's a hurt comfort, not a hurt.
Not just hurt.
But what if I want the hurt?
Oh no!
Oh no. But yeah, so I feel like it's very much like he's like, and like that's a really good line. I really liked that line because it's like, again, it says a lot because it's like, oh shit, and then it's also like it really says how much he feels nobody cares about him.
Which is what goes into play with suicide.
Yeah. Oh my god. Wow.
Which it still makes me feel like I don't think the author would just kill off Tommy.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like if anything, there's going to be like a suicide attempt, or that he's going to like talk more about probably doing that, and then like maybe his friends figure out somehow, they like talk him out of it or something.
Yeah. Also, like, with this section with Tubbo and Rambo, I feel like it's implying that he had done an attempt before already.
I mean, that's why they keep seeing it as that night.
Yeah, and like Tubbo being like, I'm gonna lose him, like he believes that's gonna happen, because he had attempted to do so before.
Either he meant that, or he meant like he's gonna become more angry and hateful and like push everyone out of his life.
I think it's both, kind of.
Either
both a literal and a metaphorical meaning.
Either he would like is referring to like him committing suicide, or like him just like wanting to just push everything away.
Yeah.
And just becoming so angry and like hating like everybody.
Yeah. Or just like not necessarily hating everybody, but like isolating himself from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So there you go, that's all I gotta say. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
No,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Wilbur's a bitch.
Wilbur's a
Yep.
Ace Techno! I have finals coming up, so I'm not able to see you guys until winter break starts.
Nice.
You did good. Author, you did good.
Yeah.
Thank you for
It was great.
work. We appreciate it.
We love author fanfic. Authors used to fanfic.
Do the snaps.
Oh.
Do the snaps.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beat now.
Yeah. Well, there we go. I think that about concludes it.
When does winter break start?
I don't know.
I say as we don't have school anymore.
Probably soon. I would assume very soon.
December just started, so maybe
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
soon.
actually, I think it should start like 21st or like
Yeah, a
before
couple
that.
weeks
Probably
from
like a week before.
Oh, it starts like the day of when winter starts, because winter is like the 21st or 22nd.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It starts in this. It starts mid-December.
I
Winter
guess
starts
so.
mid-December.
Yeah, it starts mid-December.
Yes.
Doesn't it start in November?
Exactly.
No,
No.
spring ends in November, and then winter
Because
Spring
starts.
that's
ends in
winter solstice.
November.
No.
Spring ends in November.
No.
You heard it here first.
Yes, I now write the laws of.
Yeah. Don't you know? It's fall, summer, spring, winter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh
That's how it works.
Mhm.
huh.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So I think that concludes our
Yep.
That concludes our Poetica for now. Until spring break.
spring break.
I want to not.
Until spring break.
Winter break.
Until winter break.